Now, it cost us a fair degree of money to move up north, but it was money well invested. Next up, equipment old and new, and more coming soon. Here, some images that I could find on my computer. This cost us a lot of money, a lot of effort, and it doesn't look very exciting. This is CI's vitrification mixture 1, known to its friends as VM1. CI, Cryonics Institute, pardon. One of the main cryonics storage providers in the United States. We work with Cryonics Institute, and we also work with Alcor. We'd happily work with CryoRus as well if we had any members in the UK who were engaging in our services who had contracts with CryoRus. As yet, we don't. This VM1 we purchased from CI. Ben Best, much personal labour, managed to wade through the bureaucratic nightmare of shipping this to the UK for us. He did actually write about this in Long Life magazine recently and explained that it was very, very difficult and he couldn't guarantee to do so again. We actually lost one lot on the way. We had to have a second lot shipped over. And consequently, he advises overseas groups like ours to endeavour to develop their own capability of mixing VM1 in their given locations, so they don't have to rely on external sources. We are making steps towards that, which I'll come to a little bit more later. There along is, that's a blood filter that Tim has his hand on there, and it's simply representing the place of the patient in the system when the perfusion is occurring. All that does basically, that would be this here and this here, plumbed into the femoral arteries or the carotid arteries, depending on whether we're perfusing the head or the whole body. The reason we do them separately is because we will vitrify the head and we will use another solution for the rest of the body, be it simple organ preservation solution or ethylene glycol, for the simple reason that at this stage we don't have enough VM1 to do the whole body, and additionally, if we are concentrating more on the best possible preservation of the head and the brain, then we can give that more attention. And while a lot of this is based on educated guesses of future technology, it's generally assumed that the brain is going to be the most important part of the body when it comes to fixing the patient. So that the reason I included that picture in here is simply to indicate the improvements in training. Previously, that was simply plumbed in together with nothing in the middle. Just such a simple thing as popping a blood filter in the middle to say this is where the patient goes allows people during training to visualize more fully exactly how everything works. Because what people understand, they don't forget. What they don't understand, what they just hear, they're more likely to forget. And we do rely on people being able to retain that information, because people who are not up to par with how everything is working will not be able to assist us in an emergency. Well, they will, but they will be the person to whom we say, press that button when I say so, or please take the notes, because during a cryonics emergency it's good practice to record everything as it happens, if you have a person spare to do so, which is generally the case, because just like any other medical procedure, if there are any problems, then people want to know why, and people want to know how these problems can be avoided in the future. Long Life magazine, this most recent issue, has a discussion of the cryopreservation of a man named Curtis Henderson, and there were a number of things that went wrong. However, Suspended Animation, the company that suspended him, have carefully examined what things went wrong and how. They were all minor things, but it was a combination of minor things. And then they list, okay, this is what we're doing to fix this problem, this is what we're doing to fix this problem. So for that reason, even the people who are not highly trained can still assist, because they'll be taking notes and doing things like that. And other things like this device here, this is not our thumper, which is a cardiopulmonary support device. but that's just like ours. I didn't have a picture of ours to hand, so I just grabbed one off the internet. We have currently an oxygen-powered thumper, and what that does is it does the chest compressions. Quite simply, it's very difficult to do chest compressions manually when a patient is in an ice bath, especially when you've got to do it for a fair period of time, depending on how long you're going to have to keep the patient in the ice bath between the hospital and wherever you're going to do the perfusion. We have a spare one of those as well, in case anything happens with the original. Regards to oxygen, we have several oxygen cylinders that are kept full. We also have an air compressor, so we can refilling a spare cylinder while we're using the current one, so we can't run out of air to run it. But we can use another unskilled volunteer to hold the oxygen cylinder beside the portable ice bath as we're going along. This here is an ambucardio pump. Incidentally, regards to old and new more coming soon, this is new. This is old but used in a more useful fashion. This is old, these two are old and this is coming soon. And a couple of other things I'm going to mention. This is an ambucardio pump. It's the same as suspended animation use when they need a backup for their own cardiopulmonary support device. And essentially it's a manual chest compression tool which will enable you to save your own hands from freezing in the portable ice bath, but also has a suction cup on it, so the compression goes both ways. And additionally has a monitor on the top. You can't see it there because the hand's in the way, but it has a monitor to tell you whether you're applying the right amount of force or whether you need to increase or decrease the force you're using. So that's very, very useful. Because obviously overcompression can result in damage, and undercompression isn't doing the job properly. Here this is a combi tube, which is the device for accessing both the trachea and the esophagus separately, because there are some things that you want to go into the trachea, that is to say air, and there are some things that you want to go into the esophagus, that is to say certain medications. This piece of equipment, again, it's the same used by suspended animation in the US. Like I say, we're pretty hot on the heels in a lot of areas. This device here is simply a tool for opening and accessing the mouth and allowing one to slide the combi tube down. The reason I include this as a change, even though it's an old piece of equipment, is simply because our training has become a lot more comprehensive and now involves the use of all these peripheral things. Additionally, we at the last training we ordered a pig's head from the butcher to practice doing burr holes in the skull. Now, it's actually more difficult with a pig's head than a human head because pigs' skulls are thicker and there is more fat underneath. However, unfortunately on that occasion, the butcher didn't understand by a pig's head the same as we understood by a pig's head and delivered only the front half of a pig's head, which was no use to us. So we'll repeat that with more specific instructions at the next training. But again, this is in the same vein of increasing the level of our training to include all areas. I will spare you the details of the rectal plug that stops the insides coming out due to the pressure during perfusion. But you get the idea that we cover all ends. This last image here at the end is a picture of a picture. And I was discussing this last meeting getting one of these. It's called a Zoll Auto Pulse Life Band. And it does what this does. It does chest compressions automatically. But it's not oxygen powered, so you don't have to worry about refilling air. It runs off batteries, which you just carry spare batteries, which are much smaller than the oxygen cylinders and a lot more lightweight. It consistently monitors the extent of the compressions to ensure that exactly the right amount of pressure is used. And it's much more lightweight and portable. It's a hell of a lot easier to transport than this item of kit, which is quite heavy. I say quite heavy, it's about 25 kilos, which is fine if we're moving about in the ambulance, but it's a bit of a pain to have to shift it around in a Pelican case, and it's definitely a pain if we wished to operate overseas, which I'll come to later. In other equipment coming soon, we're going to be acquiring quite shortly a fume cupboard